Shut up and sit down.
Good afternoon, real estate investment community. My name is Scott Lurie, and we are joined today live on The Hard Truths with Scott Lurie with Sophie Hengst. I am so excited to have Sophie with us today. Sophie is a rising star in the fix and flip arena, specifically in my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Sophie's joining us today. Sophie, thank you for joining with us. I'm so excited to have you. We've got a great discussion ahead of us.
Thank you so much. I can't wait. I've been listening to your podcast, and I'm very excited to dive deep. I was just telling him earlier, I was like, I want to interview you. Like, I have questions for you that I know people were going to want to know.
Well, maybe we'll have a few minutes for a few questions back at me during this process, but thank you again for joining us. Sophie, 25 years of age, started in the fix and flip market, gained some great notoriety with her first flip at the age of 23 in a suburb outside of Milwaukee, Whitefish Bay, Wisconsin. Sophie, let's jump in. 23. Give us a little background on who Sophie Zhang was at the time, Sophie Hengst. Tell us how you got even interested in real estate, and then tell us a little bit about your background that brought you into your desires for interior design, fix and flip, and everything you did. Because I remember reading that first article in the Milwaukee Business Journal, and I was like, who is this? So give us a little background. Love to hear about you.
Yeah, so I'll go back to when I was 19. I was going into my sophomore year of college, and I've always been very forward thinking. So I always had the angle in my mind that I wanted to own an interior design firm. I just didn't know how exactly I was going to get there. So 19, still in the dorm rooms, and I was thinking, what can I do right now that will get me to that end goal of owning a design firm? And I know that when I went to college, I did not think about the classes. I would fall asleep at night thinking about how I was going to decorate my dorm room. And so I knew that if I was thinking like that, there were going to be a lot of other people that were also that excited about that. And I also knew that if you cared about decorating your dorm room, you're going to care about decorating your apartment and eventually your home. So I kind of knew that if I could handhold them through that experience, I would be able to really make a name for myself in the dorm decor world, and then continue growing up until I got to that house niche, which is exactly what I did. So I started that blog when I was 19, and I really, for the next 3 years of my college life, I was fixated on figuring out how to make this successful, and I learned affiliate marketing, and I learned people's buying trends, and I just was able to figure out people and really figure out my target market and who I wanted to, gear all of my information and my style to. So by the time I graduated college, there was really no one else who was doing that dorm decor. So I was able to grow and make my name for myself in that. And then after college, I moved into my apartment, and I basically repeated that. So when I graduated, I was already making like 20 grand a month just on talking about dorm decor. Not just, there was a lot of strategy into it, but I already knew how to kind of like get that niche going for me. So I basically repeated that same process with apartment. And then I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm ready to take on clients, but how at 23 years old can I convince people to give me hundreds of thousands of dollars to redo the type of projects that I want to do? And I knew that they wouldn't. I would just not get the type of projects that I wanted to do. So I had the money from the business, and I decided to reinvest in myself. I was 23, only 25 right now. I don't have a family. I already paid off my school, so I didn't really have any risks. So I went and I bought a house in Whitefish Bay, which is 15 minutes away from here.
Sure.
And I gutted the entire thing, and I bought it at $340,000. I put hundreds of thousands of dollars into it, but we ended up selling it for almost $1.1 million. And in that process, I learned so much.
So Sophie, let's go dorm decor to apartment decor to this massive shift to flipping homes. Did the actual owning of the vessel or the mechanism to what was going to be the flip, right? The actual purchase of the real estate to which you paid mid 300s for, you sold it for 1.1. You made a net profit that was probably an attractive profit, which we'll discuss in a minute. Where did the real estate come from? A lot of our listeners are sitting on the sidelines wondering, how do I get started, right? And maybe they don't have interior design background, and they're a construction worker, or they're driving truck, or they're working for one of the large companies in any community, and they're saying, man, I really love real estate because they've watched YouTube channels, they've seen on social media the wholesalers or the fix and flip people, or they've watched Flip That House or any of the other channels. Where did the pivot shift from, we're in the apartment decor, right, or my dorm decor, to I'm going to buy this house and flip it? Because that's a pretty huge leap from where you are, and a comfortable where you are, making $20,000 a month. Yes, just $20,000 a month, but that's still a lot of money. And now you're making $20,000 a month to be able to jump into what's going to be this flip, right? You just bought a property, and if it doesn't work out after all your money's in it, you could have faced some serious losses. Where did that jump happen, and walk us through that a little bit?
Yes, so I didn't go into it thinking I'm going to be a real estate investor. I knew that there was an opportunity here to make money from it, but I went into it being like, even if I don't make a dime, I am accomplishing almost a greater goal of getting my name out there and showing clients what I wanted to do. I bought the house because I knew that just a normal client wouldn't want, or not even want me, but maybe not even trust me to do the type of thing that I wanted to do to a house, where when I'm buying it and I'm investing my money into it, I can do whatever I want to do. And I knew I was going to be able, hopefully, to make a profit from it, and I'm going to continue to reinvest because, again, there's a profit there. But if I was really going into it like a traditional flipper, I would be doing a completely different strategy. I really did not go into this being like, I want to make so-and-so amount of money. I went into it being more like, I don't want to lose money on this, at least for this first project. So you weren't a real estate flipper. You were at this point proof of concept for your, what is today, your BSL Studio design company, where you're an interior designer. So your passion is real estate design or interior design, not real estate, but you use that vessel to create your own credibility, which is a phenomenal strategy. Think about it. I'm 23. I don't know if anyone's going to spend $100,000 on me, but if I go do it here and prove myself, by 25, they're going to be coming knocking on my door. And so you kind of did a backwards real estate approach. Do you consider yourself today a real estate investor? Depends who I talk to.
Okay.
Depending on who I talk to, I gear what my title is. So
Sure.
Sometimes I say I'm an interior designer to you because I know you're in real estate investment. I'd probably be like, yeah, I am a real estate investor.
And we classify you as a real estate investor. I mean, exactly. I read about you. I'm marveled by it because it's one of those things that I hope younger generations, younger people than you, take the passion of real estate and can catapult it, can make it what it is. But for us as real estate investors looking at a capitalistic approach to everything, you were able to buy something, create value, and sell it, which is the ultimate in terms of success, right?
Absolutely.
And so for that, it's great. You had an ulterior motive, which is interesting because you are now able to dual approach this, because not only does now 23-year-old Sophie and today 25-year-old Sophie have the real estate investment experience, but now also the notoriety that your design elements are successful and desired by community. And so that's pretty remarkable at the end of the day. Can we walk through the 23-year-old Sophie? How did you find the first deal? I mean, you're obviously looking in the suburbs. You obviously are looking for a higher finished ARV or after repaired value of the property. How did you find your first deal?
So I was looking at certain communities because I knew that I was going to make this a very nice property and it needed to retain its value of some sort. So there was a few areas that I was looking at, Whitefish Bay, where I did the house. You can buy a house that needs a lot of work and you can sell it for a lot of money. So I reached out to a few different realtors. I interviewed them, and I ultimately decided on one realtor who trusted me, which was huge because at 23 years old, when I'm coming to her with this idea, a lot of people looked at me like I was absolutely insane. And she just fully knew my vision and was able to find me a house off the market. And she's been really amazing. And I've continued to use her, which I think is an interesting technique because she takes a lot of commission. Like she takes a lot of possible income from the properties, but I knew that I have a lot to learn in this, and the real estate side of it was just something that I didn't want to do at that point, and I probably will continue using her for.
Yeah, so you're talking about the real estate side, not only on the buy where you're able to, she's able to source you the transaction. I think you're also articulating that on the sales side, rather than using your social influence and your social presence to try to sell it to a direct to consumer market, you maintain traditional business practices of having realtor list through multiple listing service or MLS. You're paying them traditional and customary brokerage fees, which on $1 million house can be $50,000 to $80,000 across the board. So it does deteriorate or erode profit, but it is customary. And so, and there's also nothing wrong with some loyalty in there. So that's okay as well. So she finds you this house.
Yep.
You say, I'm in Whitefish Bay. So for those of you that don't live in Wisconsin or are not local, you're basically looking in an affluent suburb of an urban community, right? So Milwaukee's our urban community, and surrounding Milwaukee to the north are multiple affluent communities, and out to the west there's multiple affluent communities, and down to the south so surrounding us there's all these areas, and you happen to pick what we describe as the North Shore, which many other communities have as a North Shore. And so you buy the house. So walk us through the house. So you've never flipped a house before. You have a vision for the house. You buy the house for mid 300s.
Yep.
You end up selling it for around $1 million bucks. So in between mid 300s and $1 million bucks, we're talking about $600 and some $1,000 of expense that yield anything under than expense could yield profit. Walk us through a little bit of, the first day you walked in the house. The building we're sitting in, I remember my first day in this property. There was not a single window. The roof was leaking. I actually said to myself, I think I made the biggest mistake in my life. Did you have that moment? Did you have the moment where it was, what did Sophie Zhang do at the time? What am I doing again? I'm an interior designer buying a real estate investment.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that had going for me the most with the first house is I was so naive. And I didn't really understand the risk that I was taking. I knew that I was taking a big risk. I knew that I could lose it all, but I didn't really know the small details. So I went into it looking at it strictly from the opportunity that I had with the design of it. I didn't really look at the windows. I didn't look at the roof. I didn't look at that it had a really small bedroom upstairs that no one is going to want to count as an actual bedroom. That it was plaster walls. Like, there's so much that I didn't know to look at. Whereas the second house, that's when I had my oh shit moment, where I got the offer accepted, and I spent the next 3 weeks being like, what did I just do? Like, I just lost $100,000 making a bad purchase. So first house was actually like pretty good.
So beginner's luck on the first roll to some level. You were numbified during the process and it worked out.
Yes.
So the aha moment of, did I just screw up, happened on your second buy?
Yeah, so first buy was a full-on gut, and we did a big 2-story addition. It was a 1.5 year long project, and I knew that was a great project. It was huge. I was really able to show what I wanted to do, but it took me a 1.5 years, and time is money.
Sure.
And so for the next project, I was looking at something that was still something that I could really put my hands on and make a big before and after, but something that I could do in 6 months, which meant that I was buying a house at a way more expensive cost. So that really made me nervous, and that really started to stress me out. And then also with the second house, I had employees to take care of, and it wasn't just me anymore. So I was a lot more cautious. Thank God everything worked out, but that second house, there were so many times when I just like lost sleep and was constantly thinking I just made a huge mistake.
Yeah, and so talk about the psyche there, because it happens to real estate investors wherever we are, right? So I hear from all the time, like, hey, I made a mistake, and then I watch investors crumble, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the worst part of it, right? And I always tell an investor, we lend money to a lot of real estate investors, and I see them crumbling, and I try to grab them out of the fire before it starts burning, and I say, hey, come back here. Let's meet and talk. Mm-hmm. And when I have that moment where we can collectively speak through the business thesis, generally, most of the time, they finish the project and get out of it with some level of success. Yeah. So when you're up at night, right, your sleepless night is, I've got employees now. I've got a lot of money invested. I don't know what I'm fully doing, but I'm really good at what I do. And I have all of this over here as confidence. What pulled you through that dark moment, right? Because those sleepless nights happen all the time. They happen to me all the time, at least. I'm like, hey, into a project and it's not going exactly as planned, or hey, a tenant just gave notice that I didn't think was going to be leaving me, or hey, this fix and flip, I now have to put drain tiles in it and a new roof that I didn't budget for. What talk about perseverance there, because that's who Sophie is at the end of the day, right? A person who has the ability to persevere through those sleepless nights. How did you get through that?
So 3 things. 2 of them you're not going to like the answer to.
That's okay. I like them all.
Yeah. So first thing is, I find, and maybe this is just my generation, I have to turn off the news and I have to get off TikTok. Honestly, because TikTok and the news, they try to scare you. And so I would constantly be watching the news and they'd be like, the market's crashing. Like, this is going, no one's going to be able to sell their house, or blah, blah, blah. And then TikTok, I'm getting that same information, and things that I never even thought of before, I was beginning to question. Second thing is I got on anxiety medicine, which I think is more of a personal problem, but that literally saved. I think and I feel like you might be the same way, not from the anxiety, but my mind is racing so fast and I'm constantly having new ideas. And, even when I'm trying to go to sleep at night, I'm thinking of my to-do list, and then I'm thinking of the risks, and then it just starts spiraling and spiraling. So that helped me a ton. And then third thing is this is the one you're not going to like. I don't have any investors. So I continually am going, what is the worst thing that can happen? I lose all my money. Okay, I'm 24 years old. I'm 25 years old. I'm fine. Money is just money, and I want to be smart. I don't want to be stupid with money, but it's just money, and I've built up a business already. I can do it again. Worst case scenario. So I try to just keep a level head about that. I mean, in the moment when you find out, like, I'm trying to think of a situation where this happened to me where, I don't know, I got to the house one time and there was water all over the floors. And the first house, when I didn't really know things, I probably would have started freaking out. But with this house, I'm like, we can fix this. I know the people that can come in and fix this. It's just a thing, and maybe I am going to lose some money from this. Can I keep on with that mindset forever? Absolutely not. But I'm in a position where I have money saved up for me to learn about this. I'm doing this in a very unconventional way.
Sure. And Sophie, there is no conventional way to real estate investing. I mean, right. there is no get rich quick scheme that ever works, right? Yeah. What happens for a lot of real estate investors is everyone creates their own journey, right? It's a path of existence. Your path is unconventional, is that you really weren't looking to be a real estate investor. You were looking to be a designer, interior designer. You took this model coupled with your phenomenal social media outlet, and the media has picked up on you. So for that, that's great. One of the large media channels is TikTok that you are very successful on, yet you're one way of avoiding all the problems is to shut it off. So it's kind of interesting. You talk a lot about mental health. We have a significant mental health problem in our country, and so getting help for it, I think, is a reasonable position. Now go to the last point of it. Everything's fixable. And so I think the position that we see where the failure happens, or when I watch it happen, is when you get to the point where failure's upon us, right? Mm-hmm. Your position is, I can fix that. Yeah. A lot of people's position is either I don't have the money to fix it, I don't have the resources to fix it, I don't have the mental capacity to fix it, or I don't really know how to fix it. You have taken the approach of, I'm going to fix it and I can solve for it. And so there is no right answer, right? This isn't a test, right? The nice part about real estate is you don't need an education, you don't need a degree, you need to figure it out, right? A lot of people in real estate invest with real estate with zero money. Yep. Subject to is wholesaling. Then there's a lot of people that invest with a lot of money. And then there's people that syndicate. There's people that do a lot of bring in investors. You said you don't have any investors today. Maybe your plans for tomorrow are to create investors. Who knows, right? You have this whole beautiful platform and canvas that you get to create every day, which is amazing. So let's go to the first Milwaukee Business Journal article, because I think that was from me, who's interested in real estate, but also my mom, who's not interested in real estate, but interested in maybe design. It caught a lot of attention, right? I think it was a well-written, well-picked-up story. What happened after that moment? You sell the house. 15 days later, they pick it up. You promote it. It gets sold, and now Sophie is on the map from a real estate platform. Walk us through those 5-10 days after. What did that do for you? What changed? Where are you going? And then we're going to talk about your second purchase that just sold in May. We'll start from that one in the beginning. But what happened after that first article?
Yes. Well, first of all, I did not know the power of local media. When the Business Journal reached out to me, I was like, okay, that's really nice. I had no idea what it was going to do for my brand and for my business. So I'm very thankful to them because they really did put me on the map. And with the first house, that entire year and a half, I was proving myself. I was proving myself to the contractors. I was proving myself to the people that I worked with. And I feel like it almost gave me a little bit of credibility and people more trusting my vision. But from there, one, it taught me to have thick skin, which I already have really thick skin because of, being on social media. But holy shit, are people brutal. Oh my God, they were like tearing me apart, which was honestly so good. And I kept being like, any PR is good PR. Like, keep that coming.
It's the right model.
It is, yes. And it was interesting because, I was appealing to a lot of different people. I was appealing to the investor side and the business side of the community. And I was appealing to the people that like decor. And it really worked in my favor because a lot of the people that read the Business Journal are the type of clients that I would want to have. And so from there, almost all of our initial clients came from that article.
When you say your clients, this is the design client element, came from that initial article. That's what put BSL really on the map.
Exactly. Yep, which was my goal from the very beginning.
So goal accomplished.
Goal accomplished.
Article, more national approach than you probably envisioned out of a local Milwaukee Business Journal.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So what people, and so when you say have thick skin, right? So I read all the comments. I always am a comment reader more than anything.
Me too.
I find myself learning a lot about how angry our society is really with people that are just misguided with information. And so I read, we're going to start maybe backwards. So Sophie just sold her second flip. She bought again in Whitefish Bay. And it just hit the Business Journal once again, wrote a lovely story. We'll post it on as a link so you can read it. It was well written and well documented. Another success story. But the commentary behind it was really was not favorable by some, and other people were like biggest cheerleaders. And so some of the commentary that wasn't favorable that I was reading was against the industry, right? Our fix and flip industry, which said these flippers, as a distinguished conversation of flippers, are ruining our industry, our market, because they're buying these houses and selling them for so much money. And you almost want to jump through the computer at that point and be like, well, the first one took me a year and a half of my life, and I spent every day there making it beautiful. And you don't know how much money I spent, because people don't realize you don't just buy it for $300 and sell it for $1 million and you get to keep all this money. That's never how it works. And so I look at that and I say, wow, we have a long way to go from an industry standpoint on flippers, which we're described as. We're construction companies that buy houses, that fix them up and sell them. People go through inspections and the same process they would with anybody else, and we still have the same governances that everyone else does. So I don't necessarily appreciate that rhetoric. So before May 25th, you owned a house. It was your second flip, right?
Yep.
So tell us, so you had great success. It took you how long after the sale of your first house to find your second house?
Oh gosh, it took me, I put in the offer in October. So really it was just a month and a half. But that felt like a really long month and a half because I knew I had momentum. So I knew that I was like, I cannot wait a year to find another house. Like, this is my time. I gotta keep going. But I mean, the market right now is crazy. And to find a house where I'm not going to lose thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars is really, really difficult.
For sure. So so you found this house again from your realtor friend?
Yep, off market.
Off market deal again. So once again, Sophie has engaged a licensed real estate agent to bring an off market deal to her. She found it. You walked through the house, you loved it, you wrote an offer. 6 weeks later, you're accepted on your second home.
Yep.
And this second home, give us a couple learning points. You mentioned one, which was not to be a year and a half into the property. What else did you learn from that first one that you implemented on the second and third? On the second home. Give us the next couple pointers that you really took away from the first year and a half of your life learning and proving your design model to execute on the second flip?
So immediately when I saw the house, even before I put the offer, I was looking at the big money purchases. So I was looking at windows. I was looking at if it had air conditioning. I was looking at the type of wall that it was, where the bearing walls were. I was really looking at all of those things that would be really, really expensive to fix and would take a really long time. I also was looking at, does this need an addition? Because then I have to go to the architecture review board, which takes time. And anything else that would involve me really going to the city, because that was part of the issue with the first house, is that I had to get a lot of things approved. And then with the second house, I already had the team really put together. So I was able to, instead of interviewing contractors and interviewing trades, I already knew the trades that I really enjoyed working with, and they knew me and they knew the type of things that I create and the level of decor that I create. And so instead of again, that first house I was just constantly pitching, which took away that whole entire part of the process for me. So from when we looked at when we put an offer in, once that offer got accepted, then we immediately started the design process, so that the week after we closed, I think it was 2 days after we closed, we started construction.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's how we kind of set up some of our development deals. We want to put the fork in the ground or the shovel in the ground the day after we close or the day we close, because you close, you start paying interest,
Yep.
You start paying opportunity costs, you start getting into the deal, and that's pretty amazing. Have you figured out, or have you done a signature item that's replicated in your first two properties you flipped?
You mean signature style?
Signature style. Have you added a accent wall that's going to be in every one of? So when I was flipping houses, the reason I ask is my signature was always a double fridge, double freezer, right? I always put in two 36-inch or 72-inch fridge freezer, which when people walk into them in a customary home, they're like, I'm buying it. And you're like, okay, but do you want to see the rest of the house first? And they say, no, they want to buy it because I gave them a fridge and a freezer that were double sized. Do you have a, not a design element, but a flipper element that is unique or part of what you plan on doing? I'm assuming you're going to do more, which we'll talk about your future, but have you gotten there yet? Or is this starting to create in your mind?
One, that's really smart of you. And I'm actually going to take that technique, I think. But two, no, I haven't, because I'm building a portfolio. So I really didn't want, there's certain things like cabinetry and other things that I really obsess over, but I wanted this to look completely different than the first house, so I could build my portfolio and show different styles. And really, the house, the footprint I was working with, I could not put an island in this kitchen, which is something that I know people want. And that actually really hung me up, because I was like, will I be able to sell this house for almost $1 million with no island in it? But there was no space. So there's not really anything like that, I would say, that is my signature. I think one of my signatures is, and this is really just preference, I hate fake material. I hate fake material, and I think that is something, again, if my strategy was to make as much money as possible, I'd be saying something completely different, but since I'm trying to build my design brand, I like to use real marble. I like to use real soapstone. You just cannot get that same look using fake marble. You can't get that same look without using real soapstone. So I would say that I tend to, maybe that's my signature.
And so talking about those elements where you're talking about where you wouldn't use a manufactured or a let's say a manufactured countertop versus a marble countertop or a stone countertop, do you feel yourself getting talking from a flipper mindset, do you feel like you're getting that value back dollar for dollar or dollar for dollar and a half, or are you losing money on that investment to get to the sales price?
I'm probably losing money, but okay, I am gaining money from the clients that I'm getting from these projects. So I'm always thinking about that as I'm doing it. Am I going into it making the most amount of money possible on these projects? Absolutely not. Again, I'd be doing it a completely different way, but I'm showing clients what I can do. And even for this house, I had all my clients walk through, and I invited the entire neighborhood, and I invited my followers. And I didn't just do that to be nice, even though it was really, really fun to see it, but I did it so that people could see the level of attention and detail that I put into these houses. And when you go into a BSL house, you feel different about it, and it feels more high end. But I am definitely not making as much money as I could be if I was making different selections.
I gotta just jump for 1 second to when you described it as a BSL house, which no one really probably grasped onto that as fast as I did, but that's her design studio's BSL house is the fabrication of what she's trying to ultimately create. So it's ingrained right in Sophie's brain, which is when you walk into my BSL product, here's the feeling you're going to get. And that goes a long way from not only the residential application, but also the commercial application. When you walk into certain types of feels of properties, you either feel young, you feel energetic, you feel miserable, you feel sad, you feel depressed, you feel great. All of those feelings really come through with all of the decor you create as the interior designer, because it's all about that feeling, right? And so I feel that a lot in a lot of stuff that we do on the commercial applications as well as on the residential applications. And so I compliment you that you have this feel already in your mind of a BSL design and what BSL is going to mean to the consumer and the consumerism of the feeling, because it is just a feeling, right? It resonates from your eyes into your mental state of here's what I feel when I get into the property versus what I'm seeing, and then that's all I'm seeing. And so it is a true, genuine feeling. There's a reason when you walk into this building, which we're in our building, you hear music playing at the entranceway outdoors. That's a design feel, right? To me, that's how you're feeling. You're feeling something by listening to it. And so that's amazing to see. So Sophie's building a BSL interior design company. How many clients do you have from a standpoint of, let me ask you a better question that's maybe more targeted. Where do you see your BSL design studio going right now?
So I'm trying to be pretty selective with clients. Right now you asked me earlier, when people say like, what do you do? I say different things. So to you, I'm a real estate investor.
Okay.
I'm really an entrepreneur too. So I kind of multiple.
Well, I would say you're an entrepreneur. And then underneath that entrepreneurship, you have multiple categories, exactly, which I wear that same hat with you, so I understand everything you're saying. So now go ahead.
Exactly. So under my BSL Studios umbrella, which is my interior design firm, I have 2 other employees working for me. On the other side of the business, I have more, but as far as BSL Studios, it is me, I have another interior designer, and I have a project manager. Because there's only 3 of us, I'm trying to be very selective with the type of projects that I'm taking on. I'm also in a type of situation that I'm very lucky to be in, but it was not just luck, it was strategic luck.
Sure.
Where I'm right now not trying to make the most amount of money possible. I am trying to build my portfolio because I know for the next 2-3 years, if I can get 10 projects under my belt and under my portfolio that really show the amount of how much it's going to cost. You know, I'm not doing a $30,000 bathroom makeover. I'm doing a $100,000 bathroom makeover. So if I can do that, that's the goal. But also manpower, and everything is reputation right now. And so I'm really trying to give my clients as much attention as possible for each one. So when I went into it, I was like, I'm only going to take on 3 clients. However, I'm lucky to be getting very great inquiries that are very hard to say no to, because I'm like, oh my God, this is such a good project, or they know a lot of people, like maybe this isn't a great project right now, but if we do really, really good, they can recommend me, you know. So that's the goal, but that's the goal for right now. I only take on construction projects, so I want to be involved in the gutting of homes. We have whole entire first floor guts where I'm not just picking out couches, I am picking out every single thing that you see when
you're picking flooring, wall covering, light fixtures.
Yep, the texture of the walls, the thickness of the molding. I mean, we get so in detail on these things. But what I really want to do is, this is the game plan. I have to put some more like strategic goals in place to get there. But I find, and this is something that I want to talk to you about, sidelines, because I just think that you have really great knowledge on this, and again, you're either going to hate what I'm about to say or whatever, but...
Never hate it.
Well, we'll see.
Let's listen to it.
We'll see. So I just think that the neighborhoods in Wisconsin are so cookie cutter, the new neighborhoods, which there's a model to that. And I completely understand, because you can make the most amount of money from that. However, I know there's a lot of people that are looking for something different than what everyone else has. So I'd love to get into the development side of it, buy a piece of land, do like 7 model homes. I can then go sell those plans online because of my social platforms. Maybe start a furniture line where I stage the houses with all the furniture, and then people can buy a model home and they can buy a furniture package.
Yeah, and you see the reason cookie cutter happens, right? If you drive if you drive down 80 South 82nd Street, for example, the reason they did it is in the 60s after post-war, they were just looking for housing, and then now you go to other developments, they're looking for just housing. The recent statistics still shows 4 million shortage of housing units in the country, and that number is probably growing at a rapid pace. And so, yes, and your aspirations are incredibly motivating for me to share with my daughter, my aspiring interior design daughter, who's a 16-year-old who's learning to get motivation to see what comes next. Then to see a dominant female continuing to join the real estate industry is great for everybody. So I support all of that. Talking about the real estate, what's next, Sophie? Are we looking for another flip? Are we now have 2 flips and working on something different?
So 3 weeks ago I got married, and I vowed after closing on the second restoration that I was taking off for the summer because they really do consume me. And I'm trying to...
Was the vow a play on words at that point, or was that just something that was thrown in there?
What did I say?
You said, I vowed.
Oh, wait, that's so funny. No, I had no idea. Wow, that really worked out for me.
Okay.
So I think we're going to start looking for a house in early fall, which tends to be the time that I get into my houses. And that really does work out in Wisconsin because I can do the construction in the winter and then come around and sell it in the spring.
Sure.
So I think we're going to do another restoration project, and then I mean, none of this is like, I'm kind of going with like whatever comes up as far as real estate opportunities. But then I'd love to build one house from the ground up.
And will you, so building from a ground up as a developer or restoring a property as a flipper, real estate investor, they all come under the category of real estate. You've obviously, is it safe to say that you've enjoyed your time as a real estate, the short 2 years as a real estate investor?
Oh yeah, I love it. I really do love it. Even though it does keep me up at night, I understand the power that it gives me as a business owner and what I want to do. And I'm addicted to it, which people told me that you would get addicted to it. And I'm like, when I'm at the finish line of these projects, I'm like, nope, not addicted at all. I hate my life. I'm not doing this. And then give me a 2-week break, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so bored. Like, I need to do another house.
Yeah, you need to feel the energy of all the problems that keep you going, as they all do. Nothing's easy. So
nothing is easy. Nope.
So BSL Studios is effectively running today. You've got your client list. You're obviously adding selective new clients to that. What is the biggest learning lesson you've made or learned the hard way through real estate, through the real estate side of it, understanding that we're listening to real estate, focused on real estate? Where has been, what's been the biggest learning lesson? And then answer that with, what's the biggest perception mishap or untruth that people don't connect the dots for with you in real estate that you could share with our listeners?
Good question. So my biggest takeaway that I've learned so far is be nice but not too nice. I really want to form a great relationship with everyone, and that's something that I pride myself on, because relationships can get you really, really far, and they can get you things a lot faster. They make the work environment a lot more fun. But I also don't want to be too nice where people think that they can take advantage of me. And I think that's, whether you're a girl, a boy, whatever, I think that that's something really relatable, especially with imposter syndrome and people just starting out, because a lot of the time it is pretty obvious that you don't know what you're doing. I did not know what I was doing with the first house, especially with the first house, but even with the second house. I mean, I have so much to learn, and being open and honest with the trades and listening to them and being nice to them, but not too nice where they think they can walk all over you, has something that has really, really helped me and gotten me to where I am right now, honestly.
That's great. I think that's right. Every day I still learn on our rehabs or fix and flips or our deals that we're doing. I still learn every day. I'm like, wow, that's a new one. Or, hey,
Yeah.
I thought this was the way it is, but it's actually like this. And you learn a lot. You really do. And it's every day, and it's the relationships that you say. I try to be fair always. Right. And if you're fair, people always will take away that you're fair. And I'm okay with the criticism that you're fair, because I think fair always wins. So sure. That's great. Sophie, thank you for joining us today. This has been an absolute pleasure. We've got a lot of listeners from all over the place. Can you just share your social plugs of how and where people can find you, how they can keep tabs on Sophie? This is an up-and-comer in the real estate community, not only in Wisconsin, but all over the place. Sophie's got great plans for herself. Her motivation is one that I think any youth should take some lessons from. How do people follow you?
So I'm pretty easy. Basically, everything is at by Sophia Lee. Instagram, TikTok, my website, and then as far as my design firm, it is BSL Studios. So you can just
all of those at Sophie at by Sophie Lee.
By Sophia Lee. So
give us the spelling it for us.
BYSOPHIALEE.
Beautiful. Sophie, thank you for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Listeners, please take a moment to follow Sophie. Sophie's a phenomenal ball of energy. I'm very excited to see what she's going to be doing. My name is Scott Lurie. You've been joining us on The Hard Truths by Scott Lurie. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Okay, do you have 5 minutes?
Yes, I do.
Wait, do you want to keep recording? I have two random questions for you.
Two random. Let's hear them.
If I was your daughter or your son, what advice would you be giving me at this point in my career?
That's a great question. I always tell my son's active in real estate with me. He's I would say, pay attention and take calculated risk to the level you're comfortable doing. And you referenced that point. I spend a lot of time with a lot of children, youths, adults, and I marveled at the massive discrepancy between where I think they should be in life and where they actually are as a negative. And so I tell my son, either be prepared to kick ass or get your ass kicked. And I would always tell you to do the ass kicking, because it's way more rewarding. And so I tell him that. I speak to him candidly. My daughter has a tremendous amount of motivation. I think she understands it, but at the end of the day, social media plays a big influence on all of these youth, and it's not what it is on social media always. It's really what it is in reality, and life's difficult. So I always tell my children, and I continue to tell them, pay attention, be active, be focused. The party will always go on, but you got to be successful and be successful.
That's very good. Okay, next question, super random.
Yeah.
What's your morning routine? Because I know you have one.
Yeah, well,
or I'd be shocked if you did not have one.
So I like to, by way of desire, I like to get up, and I like to work out. I try to do the Peloton, or I do enjoy cycling. So I do like to do those in the morning. I like to then get to the office, and I'm usually here.
I need time.
Yeah, good question. So I get up at 6 o'clock. I like to be on the Peloton by 6:30. I like to be out of the house by 7:30. That's my goal. I have this thing I have a defect in my brain, one of them, where if I don't work out in the morning, traditionally before the sun is up, then I never work out because my day is already going. So I have to be there. I have crazy lunch routines. I go to certain places on certain days for certain lunch specials, because that's just where I operate.
Yeah.
But
I'm the same way. That's so weird.
Yeah, I love Elsa's on Monday, and I go for tacos on Tuesday, and that's my life. But I do try to, and will continue to be placing emphasis on obviously better health and better management. As you get older, you want to be more healthy, or at least less unhealthier than you were the day before. And so I continue to try that pursuit. That's probably my biggest opportunity, but also part of what I like to do in the mornings. And then I'm here at the office. I love to be with the team. I like to be part of what we're doing. I like to be engaged. We have a lot going on here at F Street, and with our lending business and with our development company. And so I like to be part of all of that on a very in-depth and detailed way.
What time do you usually get into the office at?
I like to be here between 7:30 and 8.
Before everyone else gets here?
Yeah, we have some early risers. So I have some of the staff that's here at 7 when I get here, and we have some people that stay till 7 at night. We have some people that are working on the weekends.
Yeah.
It's an ebb and flow of just breeding, hopefully, what is success.
Yeah, right. Okay, do I have time for one more
Yes,
question?
of course.
So something that I'm struggling with right now with a team is that I am constantly in and out of meetings. I mean, my entire day is back-to-back meetings, which means I'm working 24/7 because I'm working in the morning before people get in, and then I'm working at night to finish up. Is that just your life, or do you have any advice on how to, I mean, like, do you block off time where you're just like, absolutely no meetings, this is my head down time where I actually need to work and grow my business further?
So that goes in stages for me.
Right.
When I was when I had less employees, when it was 2 people here, 3 people here, you were always in everything, right? You knew every deal, you knew every transaction, you knew every paint color, you knew everything. And as we've expanded and grown the business, you have to have trust and confidence in your team, but also systems and processes that allow for them to reduce the amount of errors one can make, right? And so we still stumble upon errors across our platform, and that's common. But we try to I try to reduce them to the best of my abilities, only because I feel like we've got a great team. And so if you have to give them wings to be able to make decisions, they're going to make mistakes. You're going to solve them. That's okay. But you have to at least give them wings from a leadership position that, hey, they've got to take initiative. If they don't take initiative, if your leadership team doesn't take initiative, then you need to give them a little reminder that you're on the leadership team. And if I've misplaced you on the team, please tell me, because I'll remove you, and no harm, no foul, meaning no negative penalty if that's not right. And most of them react to, no, that's how I want to continue to grow in the business. And so we provide that entrepreneurial workshop here, workplace environment where people can continue to grow and develop. Yeah. And we've got some unbelievable people here. So
yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
It is. It's really hard to find.
For sure.
Okay, last question. What are your favorite podcasts? Like, what podcasts do you listen to?
Yeah, so I follow a lot of different people. So I follow what I don't know is what I try to listen to, which is a lot on the crypto environment right now.
I would love to pick your brain on crypto.
Yeah, well, Mike, he's our crypto maniac over there. So Mike does all of our crypto world for us, but I do follow crypto a lot. Yeah. We've attended the last 2 Bitcoin conferences, and we'll be in Nashville for the 3rd Bitcoin conference for us this coming next year.
I did not know you were into Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of into Bitcoin. Mike's very much into Bitcoin and knows everything about everything in the world, and I'm slowly learning every day. So I follow that. I follow all business media communication. That's basically what I listen to and what I watch. From CNBC, from when I get in till when I leave, to I really try hard ever since COVID started to no longer watch the news. And so I used to watch the news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it ruined my first 1 month of COVID that the world was about to implode. Yeah. So I shut it off, and the world didn't implode, and so I was like, well, okay, I can live over in this space. So I follow a lot of different things. I listen to some of Joe Rogan's Wild podcast. I listen to Brilliantly Dumb, who's a really funny golf-related comedian. Okay. Bob, Feed Bob, he's a great guy. And then I listen to all of the various different motivational stories. I listen to how they built it, or whatever his name is, from Guy Raz. He's great. Love his stuff. So, I fumble through all of that different space, but I find podcasting to be really helpful, good dialogue as long as the world. My favorite podcast ever was Serial, which was on NPR, which was the story of the individual who was charged with murder and then eventually acquitted off of the NPR in Baltimore somewhere. And I love that whole thing. Yeah. It was captivating. It reminded me of almost The Sopranos, which I don't watch TV, but I watched everything of The Sopranos with some Chinese food in Washington, D.C. So, so that was great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all the questions I have for you.
Well, Sophie, thank you again. I hope that I get to see you again. I'm sure we'll have some time together outside of here to discuss real estate and the rest of the world. Thank you for being here.